Good evening, fellow Badgers, friends, and community members. Thank you for joining us tonight for the Business of Music. My name is Natalie Singer, and I work on the Alumni Relations team at the Wisconsin School of Business, and I'll be the host for tonight's event. This is the first event in a series called The Business of, where we are excited to be featuring the perspectives of our alumni on the business side of your favorite things. In partnership with the Wisconsin Alumni Association, I'm honored to be introducing tonight's panelists. Each of these outstanding alumni have a unique perspective on different sides of the business of music, and we are so thankful for them to take their time and share their stories. So first up, I would like to welcome Heather Beverly. Heather opened her own entertainment law firm in 1998 and has since represented award-winning clients in film, TV, and radio. Heather has her BBA from the Wisconsin School of Business, as well as her JD from the Chicago-Kent College of Law. And in addition to her firm, Heather is also the founder and CEO of Soul Reciprocity Network. So welcome, Heather.
Thank you.
Next, I'd like to introduce Frank Gatson Jr., a world-class manager, choreographer, and creative director. Frank is currently managing the girl band June's Diary from the BET docuseries Chasing Destiny, while also overseeing the creative direction of artist Brandy. And he's previously also had his hand in countless other influential acts. He has received his bachelor's degree from the UW School of Letters and Science. So thank you for joining us, Frank.
Thank you. Thank you.
All right, next up is Derrick Holt. Derrick is the manager and lead engineer at Studio One Recording in Menasha, Wisconsin, as well as a national expert in hip hop education. He has his BBA from the Wisconsin School of Business as well, and previously worked as an accountant in Washington, D.C., before earning his degree in recording, engineering, and studio techniques from the Omega Studios School of Applied Recording Arts. Welcome, Derrick.
Evening. How you doing?
And finally, we have Frank McGehee, an MBA graduate from the Wisconsin School of Business. Frank is the former head of Global Customer Relationship Management at Tidal, a subscription-based music, podcast, and video streaming service. We are so thankful for Frank taking time out of his schedule between his two current roles, both overseeing the engagement communications for Disney Plus and ESPN Plus, as well as being the mayor of the township of Maplewood, New Jersey. So welcome, Frank.
Thank you, Natalie. Great to be here tonight.
All right, so all of you have such a wide array of perspectives from in the industry. So starting off, I would love it if you could just give us a bit of a deeper sense of your role and how it fits in the industry. So starting off, Heather, can you tell us a little bit more about your work in entertainment law and the types of clients that you represent?
Sure. First of all, thank you, Natalie, for the invite. I'm so happy to be on this illustrious panel with these wonderful, wonderful, accomplished gentlemen. And it's very nostalgic to be able to be talking with, people from the University of Wisconsin-Madison. So for anybody who's registered, hello. In terms of what I do in the industry, I'm an entertainment attorney. I represent clients in music, film, television, and the like, as you mentioned, and they range in wide and vast variety from, artists that are just starting out to award-winning artists in hip hop, R&B, even gospel music. And I represent a lot of companies and a lot of executives and high-level other influencers and such, and even some people, a couple of the talent on Peloton. So it's a very wide variety of clients that I've had the pleasure of representing over the years. And then I also just recently started a company called the Soul Reciprocity Network that you mentioned. And that is a branding company. It's a consulting company. We do branding. There's a special little twist on it in that we're really, really working to get to know the clients to their soul and being able to help them expand their brands and grow and partner them strategically with other people who fit. And then we're doing a lot of edutainment things like this.
Mm-hmm. Awesome. Thanks, Heather. Next, we're going to move over to Frank Gatson. I made it really hard on myself having two Franks here tonight, but Frank, if you could just talk about, you are in choreography as well as managing and directing. So could you just highlight some of your career moments that you think are most important? Oh, and you're on mute.
Okay. I don't do this. Thank you, Natalie. Thank you so much for having me. Love University of Wisconsin-Madison. But my job is a manager, a choreographer, and a director. I got my start, I guess, big time when I managed Tyrese back in the day, and I managed Luke James. But also, when I was a manager, I was a choreographer, and I started out with In Vogue. I won 3 MTV Awards with In Vogue and 3 MTV Awards with Beyonce. From In Vogue, I went to Beyonce and Destiny's Child. I've choreographed for her. I've done like 5 world tours. I've done the Super Bowl halftime with Beyonce. In Vogue, I love that group because they put me on the map. From there, after meeting In Vogue and Beyonce, I managed a kid named Luke James who appears on The Chi now. He was a singer first, now he's an actor. And also after that, I went on to work with Kelly Rowland on a TV show called Chasing Destiny. And that's where we auditioned 1,000 girls. And I put together a girl group called June's Diary. Shameless plug. They have an EP. They got a record deal right away with Epic Music, Epic Sony. They got dropped. So now they're on my dime. And I love these 5 girls. So I got my hands in a lot of things. I've directed almost like 25 music videos. I've choreographed almost 300 music videos. I've done award shows. A dream came true when I got to choreograph Tony Braxton's award show. A dream came true when I got to choreograph Michael Jackson's appearance on the American Music Awards. I worked with Michael Jackson. I worked with Tony Braxton. I worked with Maxwell. I worked with Mariah Carey. Please look at my resume when you get a chance online. But I'm very fortunate to be in show business. I love what I do. And I guess that's it for now.
Great. Thanks so much, Frank. Next up, Derrick. I know you're here in Wisconsin, which is definitely a unique perspective as well. And you're also involved in, some music education. So can you tell us a little bit about your career?
Here in Menasha, which is basically Appleton, Wisconsin, outside of Green Bay, I am a recording engineer and a studio manager, which means I book and I conduct the sessions and work with the artists. I am also a music producer, born and raised in Milwaukee. A lot of the artists I work with are in Milwaukee. One of my main projects is called Land by the Lake. It is a citywide Milwaukee hip hop compilation aimed to fight the segregation, the gang issues, generational differences, geographical differences, turf differences, all that stuff. So we have upwards of 75 artists working together over the course of 10 years, which doesn't happen in Milwaukee. Young artists, older artists, Black artists, white artists, Latino artists, Vice Lord artists, Latin King artists, all working together. And it doesn't really happen that often in Milwaukee. As well as being a part of the hip hop ed scene. So I was a part of the Youth Arts Initiative, which was funded by the Wallace Foundation. We were the first wave. We were only in 3 cities. Milwaukee, Green Bay, and St. Cloud. We were deemed by an independent research body to be a success. And now we were rolled out to another, I believe, 20 or so cities in the second wave. And my job was to create a digital audio education program for youth that would provide high quality education for youth outside of the school environment. So now after working there, I am now a consultant and consult throughout the state and help hopefully shepherd and guide some young artists towards some career goals of their own.
Great, thanks, Derrick. And finally, we have Frank McGehee. Frank is allowing me to call him Mayor Frank to make sure we know who we're talking about tonight. So Frank, I know you have an extensive marketing background, and even though you've since moved on from Tidal and in the music industry, can you tell us a little bit more about your role there?
Sure, and thanks again, Natalie, for the opportunity. And good evening, everyone. I look at being in entertainment business is that there's always a principal, one or a few people that really we all gravitate in and become fans, which is short for fanatics of. But there are a lot of people behind the scenes that make that fan or that icon become who they are. And in my role was more on a marketing or analytical marketing side. So as you know, Tidal, like Spotify, is a subscription-based business. And my team was poised with keeping members who sign up for a free trial to stay engaged and continue to buy the subscription at the respective prices that they were for the various types of subscriptions. So what we did is we actually used the behavior of people who stream the content to create marketing platforms and strategies to keep people continuing to stream the content. And what does that mean? That means it's a lot of analytical work behind the glamour of the marketing industry or the entertainment industry to do as such. So any type of communication, be it email, push, or in-app that you received, mobile or web, was done by my team. I had a team of 9 people in 4 different countries. We were in 54 countries all in all, and we're 9 different languages. And really trying to balance the amount of content and volume coming in, and also segmenting it in a way that we communicated the information to the appropriate subscribers at the appropriate time. And then also looking at ways to test, ways to try to extend that relationship that that subscriber had with the business. So if you were in the R&B genre, we might want to test the communication to you about rap or rock or country to try to find a way to keep you engaged. It was all about, as we called stream time or FaceTime, and keeping you engaged. So that's kind of an elevator ride of the work that myself and my team did. And now I have, as Natalie said, I've moved on from Tidal. Very proud of the time I was there. We really built that subscription base, working with the acquisition team and retaining those members who actually signed up for a free trial and converted to paid users. And now I am responsible working with this little guy over here, who those who follow The Mandalorian know a lot about. So thank you, Natalie.
Thanks so much, Frank. And thanks again to all of you for joining us today. We're so excited that you all bring such diverse perspective on the industry. And I think our audience is also really excited about that. We had tons and tons of questions submitted for this panel. Unfortunately, we can't get to every single question, but I did find some common themes between them. So hopefully many people take a lot from this. But the first major question that we got from the audience is around 2020 and kind of the disruption that it made in the industry. So obviously there was disruption, but also some interesting innovation. So I would love it if you guys could talk a bit to the biggest changes that you see coming for the music industry following this kind of unusual time.
I guess I can start. I'll jump in. I mean, it's been a whirlwind, to say the least. I usually tell people that I feel like I'm a little bit schizophrenic, quite frankly, in terms of how the world of this thing is going. You've got so many people who have been so devastated by the effects of COVID, by the effects of just a controversial year, and social justice issues and political issues and downward turns in the economy, and especially in entertainment as well. There's so many people that got their part of the industry was just obliterated, for lack of a better word. The touring industry, the live performance industry, the live theater industry. Yet at the same time, ironically, a lot of us were busier than we've ever been. So where there was obviously dealing with some of the fallout and the work that comes from that, and having to shut down tours or shut down theatrical performances or kind of help people navigate and pivot a bit. But like in my business, whereas most of the work I was doing was primarily music based, it's, probably now half and half between music, film, television, and other content creation, because so many different areas of the business now need to fill gaps. So for example, if there were major motion pictures that got paused and they need to fill the gaps of what is that content going to be come this year, next year, and so forth, there's a lot of new development of projects in film and television. And from a music standpoint, there's a ton of business going on. A lot of people decided if they're not touring, they'll get back in the studio and work on albums. I represent one of the top music producers in the country's like #1 Billboard, 2 weeks already out of the last 4. And the amount of volume that we're getting for the records that he's got coming out, and more records that he's getting slated for is just insane because people are in the studio. And so it's really been, it's been hard, and we've had to deal with a lot of fallout and try to help those clients of ours that are suffering. But it's like I said, weirdly, there's a lot of business, a lot of music licensing, a lot of other things going on. And then, of course, with all the streaming platforms that are emerging, there's a need for content there. There's a need for music licensing there. There's a need for actors and actresses and things like that. So it's a busy time, but it is the most unique in my last 20 something years.
Yeah, if I can add to some of Heather's points, in terms of music, and not just music, the entertainment business, in my business and also formerly a title, this is a good time because with the pandemic, it really severed our society from, socialization and outdoor interaction. And so people were looking for channels, if you will, and gravitating to those things that reminded them of, pre-COVID days. And so that's when streaming services, such as Disney Plus and music streaming services was a vessel to bring subscribers and people in general back to where they want, because entertainment is about a feeling. It's something you want to feel and enjoy. And if you can't do it in an outdoor setting, like an arena, for example, the next best thing is doing it, through your television or your phone. And so from a business perspective, and this is across all of the streaming platforms, business is strong and business is good. It's almost a protected or inverted business currently due to COVID.
Yeah.
I have to disagree with Heather and Frank. It's not good for a lot of people. I'm lucky because of artists like Brandy and En Vogue. For some reason, Brandy had an album that came out, and I was able to do some videos with her and some live shows like the Billboard Awards. Same thing with En Vogue. I got to do the Billboard Awards. So I love you, Brandy and En Vogue. But I have so many friends that do live shows, stage managers, production managers, dancers, like I just have to shout out Weekend for employing 140 male dancers, but dancers are moving from LA. Choreographers are moving from LA. People are moving back in with their family. I guess I'm on the live side of things. I think about going to a show at the House of Blues in some cities, or going to a show at a theater. Theaters are closing. I think about Broadway. I have so many friends that were in Hamilton. I have so many friends that were in the Temptations Broadway show. I don't even know how they're making it. And then I even look at the government. You see all these programs like to help restaurants and stuff like that, but there's nothing to help dancers. There's nothing to help stage managers. There's nothing to help production managers. There's nothing. I don't know if I need to be a cheerleader for the government having some type of loans. I know there's something, Music That Cares, with the Grammys, where you can put
Music Cares.
But I did that with my group. We didn't get not 1 cent. Okay, it's just so. It's good. I can see for Heather and I can see for Frank and Heather. I have so much respect about all that, but I'm not an Instagram person. I'm not a streaming person. I like to see the act. I want to feel it like the Holy Ghost. I want it to get on me. And so when I go to a show, it's something about saying go, 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 go. That's my job as a choreographer, is to make sure the audience gets lost in this event. I used to always say, a lot of people don't know what a black church is, but I know what a black church is. I wish I could take whatever that is the Holy Ghost and sprinkle it on my artist before it goes on stage. And that's what the audience will feel. And that's why the audience sells out shows. You know, like Beyonce did stadiums, 70,000 people. You know, can you imagine all that math, that money? You know, like even if you did 3,000 people, you know, can you imagine that paycheck for those girl dancers that danced with Beyonce? I think she had 21 dancers. You know, they made anywhere from $1,500 to $3,000 a week. They don't have that anymore. So it's a sad time. And I hope that by September, I hope we can do some live shows. You know, I think it's so unfair that you can go to a basketball game. You just saw the Super Bowl and people were in the stands. You know, there's got to be a way to have a social distancing type concert. You know, even if you have an arena that sits 3,000 people, maybe you can bring 1,000 people in. So maybe it's us, the leaders, like a Frank Gatson, you know, like a Jaquel Knight, you know, like a Brandy who just did a thing with Pandora with me. You know, we made a little money there, but Brandy wanted to be this type of artist that gives the audience a great experience. She wants to put the money on the screen. So it's just so many things that are happening. I really pray for all my friends, the dancers, the production managers, the stage manager. I just pray for them.
And I just want to say really quick, I hope you heard me, Frank. I said it's a very schizophrenic time because when I tell you I represent a lot of gospel artists, they had a venue every Sunday. You spoke of the Black church, and that every Sunday venue and sometimes Saturday, sometimes Wednesday went away. And so that's a very, very real consideration.
Right.
My father-in-law, Frankie Beverly, he's been touring for 40 years, regularly, year round. That entire situation went down. And yes, you know, some people who achieve a certain level, maybe they're okay, but his band, his techs, you know, he's had to ensure that they can still eat, that they can still live while this time is going on, which actually also takes a toll on, you know, artists who have achieved a certain level. So it has been very tough, but I will say this too, and Mayor Frank, I think you can agree that we are looking at what are we going to do for the live performance world, because there are all kinds of virtual performance companies who are looking at being able to do meet and greets, being able to help people sell merch, being able to do after parties, being able to do live. I represent the Clark sisters in the gospel genre. And, you know, we're looking at how can we do something in a venue and actually either pay-per-view or live stream it. They've already live streamed, had a couple virtual events, virtual watch parties, virtual listening parties. But we're actually those live performers that you're talking about, those people who really live and breathe every event to every event to every event and depend on that consistency. We are working very hard to create all kinds of environments, even if they're a little different and newer, but environments where those people still come back to work and we can get as best of an experience as we can until this thing shakes out.
Yes.
If I may just say one thing, and I know probably Derrick wants to say something, I think those are good points. I think when you think about streaming, and we can talk about music explicitly versus entertainment, you're right. You know, when I was at Tidal, part of, you know, our overarching strategy again aligns with experience. And so that experience of, you know, listening to music or watching music videos, that's for the most part, that's perpetual. That happens, right? But part of the business also was promoting and, you know, the business and doing live stream events. That part has, to Frank's point, has dried up. The business, the reason why it's able to balance theoretically is because there were multiple revenue streams or attributes of the business. And what's happened is that why one is diminished, the other one is strengthened. So it balances itself. But I do agree with Frank and Heather as well. So Derrick, I'll be quiet and yield the floor to you.
Before I start talking, do I sound okay? I had some issues before. Audio's okay? All right. So it is a double, triple, quadruple-sided coin. So to address what Frank just said about things balancing out, because where you lose money, you may gain some money somewhere. Where some doors closes, some open. That is true. There are different opportunities to diversify your cash flows. And if you are able, you can access those cash flows. Now, when I say you are able, that means that the musician that lives in a one bedroom without Wi-Fi and busks for their money daily, outside of a venue or outside of a restaurant or outside of where people gather, doesn't necessarily have the means
Right.
to now hop on Twitch, OBS, you know what I'm saying, and necessarily access that new. His music may not be on streaming platforms. He may not have been able to access the music studio that I manage. So where I'm a performer myself, venues in Milwaukee, which is a very, very, very healthy music city, have been closing left and right. It's scary. And so the question is, of those artists who can access the new revenue streams, how quickly can you access it? How are you first to market? We're talking to the business school here. Are you first to market? Are you different than anyone else who's on there? And then we have a host of artists, 2, 3. I have no idea how many times the crowd of that first category. Many more artists who are not able to necessarily capitalize on these new streaming revenues, who aren't necessarily able to invest in themselves to get $5,000, $10,000 worth of content, visuals to pop up on social media consistently so they can build an audience or a following. So where those opportunities exist, for those who can access them, those opportunities also alienate a lot of artists. There's the guitarist, the purist, who can shred and who would have been invited to multiple studio sessions, paid $30 an hour, who would have been invited to go on tour because of the network that he made through those studio sessions. Without those original studio sessions being him paid $30 an hour, he's sitting at home playing the guitar, hopefully getting on IG. That $30 an hour is gone. Those relationships are gone. Without those relationships, how does he get on tour and play for Beyonce and hang out with Frank Gasson, right? And so there's levels to this. There's a lot of layers to this. There's being short-sighted or looking at the long run when it comes to this, about venues being closed permanently, and when they open back up, limited capacity. And when they open up fully, people just ain't leaving their house anyway, because ain't nobody trying to wear a mask in the streets. So there's layers to this. So for all the artists that I am friends with, that I see accessing the new revenue streams, kudos. A friend comes to mind now, Chris Godzilla Taylor in Milwaukee, who has built one of the most incredible audio visual studios, full service. And now he really can provide all of the services that you need as an artist who can access these new cash streams now. So you can do it if you got the capital, if you got the backing, if you got the money, if you have the time, if you have the space, if you have the facilities. But if you can't, I hope you're okay.
Yeah. Just one last thing on this subject. I think it's so similar to any other kind of national epidemic or disaster, right? I mean, it's going to affect different people differently, and it's going to have really devastating effects on more people than it doesn't. Right. I mean, especially when you look at people new into the industry or just trying to get in. And I didn't even tell you this in any of our pre-stuff, Derrick, but I actually represent a client that owns a studio in Milwaukee. I'm originally from the Midwest, so yeah, I'm a Minnesota girl. And what we've been doing is really putting our heads together to figure out, so if we're not really renting studio time like we used to, what are we doing? And he's reaching out to a lot of independent producers, independent writers. We're putting together a library of songs so that he's going to set up a library of licensing similar to some of the online services, but something that's local and there for people, so that, when these bigger entities are coming and looking for content, or even other independents that want it at a lower cost, that we're trying to find some monetization models that can keep his studio alive and survive, but also reaching out to local musicians and artists and producers, and find out how we can create some new models for them to make money and everyone to still eat. So what I do, I'm an eternal optimist, and I understand. I sit from a place of privilege at this point in my life, though I still work every day and sometimes all-nighters. So, I always say, until she's done, she's not done. She's still working. But I do understand the blessings that my career has afforded me, and the fact that I have shelter, and that's, not my concern today. But I'm not at all ever lose sight of the fact that this is an industry where rise and fall can happen in an instant anyway, no matter how great you are, no matter if one day you're charting and getting a bunch of plaques, how many artists do we know later what happened to it? It's one of those, cycles, circle of life sort of situations, but I'm working with a lot of colleagues where we're being really optimistic for the industry as a whole, and actually doing the legwork to figure out how do we provide those opportunities to make sure that people can get through this and beyond and actually flourish and actually come up with some new stuff that's going to change their lives. Lots of people in app development, lots of people doing all kinds of things, thinking, and last thing I'll say about that is just even thinking about the business of their business. If they're on the creative side, I have more creatives calling me going, okay, I was touring, but you know what? Can we talk about my publishing? Because I don't think I really understand that. And where are my royalties from my records from way back? Or there's a lot of companies right now giving advances against royalties, people selling catalog, and all kinds of things that are making people think deeper about the business, which for me, ultimately, I think helps us as a whole.
Yeah, that's great. I think both Heather and Derrick alluded to something that really leads us well into the next question. Talking about barriers of getting into the industry, a lot of the audience had questions around how do you get your foot in the door in this industry? It can be a challenge. So do you guys have any best tips for someone listening in of how to get in or how you got into the industry?
Well, I want to start there because I was a person that was in front of the camera at first. I started out as a dancer, and I want to speak on that. Or if you start out as a singer, I feel like you must study. You have to know your craft. You have to, if you want to be a dancer, if you want to be a singer, if you want to be an actor, study. And then you need to work. Like do local stuff, do high school stuff, do church stuff. When you can just polish your craft and then move to Hollywood or move to LA. I always say move to LA other than New York. I think New York is really expensive, okay? People say, well, Frank, LA is expensive too. But no, you can move to Valencia, you can move to Palmdale, you want to get somewhere where you can get $1,200 rent. Okay, you don't want to pay $3,000. Try to save up $5,000. Try to save $5,000. Get to LA, get you a job that works from 10 p.m. to like 5 in the morning. Okay. And, so that you can get up and still go to auditions. You can take classes. You can go to all the auditions. A lot of times you don't have an agent. Find a friend that has an agent. Hopefully that friend will tell you about the audition. Crash the audition. I have a really funny story where I went to an agent one time and they didn't pick me up, but I saw Paula Abdul's telephone number on the desk. I memorized the telephone number. Okay. I got home. I called Paula Abdul. I said, Paula Abdul, I'm a new dancer in town. Can you take a look at me? She thought it was a friend of mine that gave me her number. I get to the audition. She says, oh, you're Frank Gatson. But she looked at me and I got the job. I booked the job. It was a job that paid $5,000. Now I got $10,000, So I think, New York is great, but I think New York is a real city. I've been all over the United States of America. That is a real city. There are grown people there with 3 roommates, no car. People say, well, you don't need a car in New York. I think you need a car if you're grown, So I just I love New York for Broadway. I've done New York for 3 years, but LA is like the promised land to me because people are faking plastic here. So if you're really about your business and you'll get out there and hustle and you'll get out there and go to class and be a nice human being, and you'll do well here because a lot of people are moving here and they fake it too much. I always say when people say, well, LA is fake. Yeah, Hollywood is fake. Okay, so we're in a fake business. So that's what we do. We get in front of the camera and we act a certain kind of way. But I find that this has been like a cowboy going west, and I'm just panning up gold and stuff like that. And so I feel like LA is a great place if somebody wants to sing, dance, or act, or choreograph. It's a lot of opportunity here. There's commercials, there's movies. And like I said, people think it's expensive out here, but you got to get away from LA. You don't want to live in LA proper. You want to get you a hoopty, that has good gas mileage, and a Prius. I wish I had a Prius when I first moved here, but I don't think they had Priuses then. But I would have gotten a Prius, so I would have had an electric car. So once again, that's my advice if you want to be a dancer, a singer, an actor, or a choreographer, or even a manager like myself, or like a director. Come to LA. It's the promised land.
I'll jump in next, if you don't mind, and that is really, I think the answer to the question is really another question, and that is, what are you looking to do to get in the industry?
Right.
Are you looking to be, as we talked about in the beginning of this of our talk, are you looking to be that person or people that are in front of the camera or on the stage, or are you looking to be one of the individuals that support that individual or people in some capacity? And I think what Frank said, which I totally agree, regardless of whatever your answer is to study. I mean, start simply with studying right now, at Madison, your particular trade, learn CRM or learn marketing or learn finance or learn law, figure out what you like to do and then leverage that through studying and trying to get some experience and funnel that into the respective industry. And I think that's really, a key way to go after your dreams. So really it comes down to studying and understanding, bring a trade, that is transferable to the particular industry.
Who's going? Me? Okay. Since I represent the estrogen on the panel, me and Natalie hold it down. Okay, a few things. First of all, this is the entertainment business. And so I will start where the gentlemen have left off, which is talking about this studying thing. It's real. And I think sometimes people think they hear it and they go, oh, that's so cliche. Okay, know your craft, know your craft. It's not just know your craft. It's know the business. Understand that if you're going to make a career out of entertainment, a few things. Number one, this is a very sexy business. A lot of people want to be in it, whether they're creatives, whether they're on the executive side. I always used to tell people when I talk to, people who want to get in entertainment law, for example, I'm like, the ads for entertainment lawyers are not in the, I'm going to date myself, in the newspaper. They're not on monster.com. Like we don't have to advertise to get people. I probably through the pandemic, again, to Frank G, to your comment, there's a lot of lawyers that are suffering through this pandemic. Yeah, I've got a friend who only did theater law. Imagine. I've been contracting other lawyers. I've added 5 contract attorneys to my practice because yes, there's overflow, but also I've got friends who I want to be able to eat too. But understanding the business of what this is what allows you to pivot if there is a time where part of your business goes amok or runs dry, or especially if you're a performer, you're on the artistic side. If you get hurt and you're a dancer, if you don't understand the business of what you do, if you don't have something else to offer, can you then teach? Can you then mentor? Can you then consult? Can you then go into another area? Obviously, being an attorney, yes, you must get a degree. My undergraduate degree from the University of Wisconsin is in marketing, so I have a BBA. But it was called a specialty, or it wasn't a minor, but I had an emphasis in communication. Well, fast forward, yes, I'm an attorney. Yes, I'm dotting I's, crossing T's, looking at contracts, but I just started a branding company. Why? Because I know marketing, and that's how I consult with my clients. My big clients, I know, Frank, you've worked with Beyonce. I represent her father, Matthew Knowles. He has an entire entertainment empire from managing the Destiny's Child brand, which is still a thing, and the group, which is actually still a thing. There's business associated with them, owning the trademark to that, owning a record label, a production company, a publishing company. He writes books, he speaks, and we're developing film and television content. So he started out as an executive in medical sale. He then he and his wife started a beauty salon. He then trained his beautiful, successful daughter, Beyonce, and started mentoring and then managing her and her super group, Destiny's Child, and even her as a solo for a while. Had to learn that part of the business and then able to pivot into even starting his own. So the studying is really, it's not to be underestimated. I mean, I'm working with social media people. I mentioned when we were still backstage. I actually have those social media managers. And what is this world coming to? It's just all freaking crazy to me. But
Heather, something you said, I don't want to cut you off, but it's so interesting you brought up Matthew Knowles. Matthew Knowles, when he was starting out as the manager of Destiny's Child, he called me one day. He says, Frank, what do you pay a production manager?
mm-hmm.
I knew because I had worked with production managers, but go on.
No.
You learn as you go sometimes too.
Yeah, but here's the thing, you always have to learn. You have to keep pushing yourself. I'm sitting here working with social media managers. I'm like you, Frank, I'm not the master. I know the science behind it because I'm a marketer, right? But I'm having to sit there. If I stay up all night, which I did, to figure out the campaign or figure out the strategy, and then I can send you links and all of this to show you how to help me. Right. I'm still studying. I'm still learning. And I have to be able to communicate as the industry changes with those who have to help me or support what I do. So there's your hustle in this business, your ability to hustle, your grind will determine your success, period. I don't care what part of it you're in. When I started and I said I want to be an entertainment lawyer, I lived in Chicago. This was in the 90s. This was R. Kelly. This was Common. This was Kanye. This was Twista, Crucial Conflict, Do or Die. Black is over there. This was those days. This is when rappers were wrapping trucks with decals and selling CDs out of trunks. And guess what? Entertainment lawyers who were little Black girls in the Midwest going, I want to do entertainment. And everyone said, you can't. We're doing what? I was buying tickets to conferences for artists, standing in line with my lanyard and cards in my pocket, going into the panels that were educating the artistic people, and then strategically looking around the room and going, okay, Q&A time. I'm going to stand up. I'm going to introduce myself as an entertainment lawyer. Room turns because there's none there. You think my colleagues are sitting in there like as participants in the artist panel? No. And then I end up getting all the questions at the end because everyone's like, wait, you're a lawyer. I started my business with a hustle, not a negative hustle, but meaning an intentional, hardworking, boots on the ground, like grassroots approach to, you will not tell me because I'm a girl and I'm a Black girl and I was 20, I graduated law school early, I was 26. You're not going to tell me I can't do this and I'm in the wrong market and I'm a girl and I'm Black and I'm that. I just wasn't going to take it. And you have to have that. I don't care what part of the industry you're in, or you will get swallowed up and die because everybody would like to have a piece of this. It's fun.
Right. Yeah, you're right.
Sorry.
Yeah, I agree. I agree 100%. I want to back up what everybody said. First of all, about studying. This piano behind me is to practice scales and to make sure I keep my theory straight. Even as a recording engineer, as a producer, I need to do that, right? So first of all, you got to be great at what you do, especially now. As an artist, the ocean is flooding, and only the cream is going to rise to the top throughout this social media soup, whatever you want to dig through. So first of all, you have to be very good at what you do. Second of all, something Heather alluded to towards the end of her answer was networking, traveling, getting out there and getting to conferences. I work with a lot of kids. I work with a lot of young artists, aspiring producers, aspiring artists, up and coming artists and producers. I tell them, and thankfully we don't have to be on site like you had to, Frank, to dance at a gig. As a producer, we can work with artists over the internet. So if you're going to stay in the Midwest, you're going to stay in Wisconsin, you're going to stay in Milwaukee, travel. Go to the A3C down in Atlanta, down in Heather City. Go to South by Southwest. Go to the SyncCon in Brooklyn, where I was about to go before it shut down this year. So you have to diversify your network. Your network is your net worth. You see what I'm saying? So especially now. So you have to be good at what you do. You have to network. And what everybody else said also, you have to know your business. So as a young producer, as a young artist in music, there are a couple names that you can follow on IG that will give you an education in this music business thing. And one of them is DJ Payne One, who happens to be from Madison, Wisconsin, who represents the BeatStars platform and who works with a lot of elite artists and producers these days. He works with a guy named Dame, and they have the Music Entrepreneur Club and podcast, which is centered on Instagram, IG, Music Entrepreneur Club, for all you young artists looking for your publishing information, your copyright information. As a producer, what's your cut of the song? Always 50%. You own it. You don't have to do anything to own that, so you can always collect that. Just know that's yours. So you don't know anything like that, you're going to get taken advantage of. When you network and you work with artists, you need to know what's yours and what's theirs. So please always study, know your craft, network. Your network is your net worth. Travel. Last thing I'll say is there's a young producer named Kame One who lives in Milwaukee. And before we knew it, he was producing on Kanye's most recent album, Rick Ross' most recent album, Bryson Tiller's most recent album. Lives in Milwaukee, but he happened to take a trip to New York to a buddy of his who lived in Milwaukee but started a studio in New York, Lex with the Records, used to work with Static Selector. So now, being in the studio around artists, not only is Kame One producing and making loops for these artists, he is hand drawing animated album covers for artists such as Young M.A. So please, you don't have to, as a producer or as a musician, you don't necessarily have to go to a certain city. But if you are going to network, get yourself out there. Your network is your net worth. And when you network, you want to always add value. Don't, number one, ask what somebody can do for you. Say, I'm so-and-so and I'm so-and-so. I have this skill set. Please tell me what I can do for you. What can I offer you? Or maybe come up with an idea that maybe they haven't heard and offer them.
Right.
A lot of people ain't out here offering services. Everybody's out here trying to get what you can get. So please study, know your craft, network, travel, offer, add value always. And that'll help you as an up-and-coming artist.
Yo, Derrick, why you make me feel so bad? I left Milwaukee for the big time.
Hey,
look here, Frank.
No. Hey, as a dancer, if I were a dancer, I'd probably be out of here too. Ain't nobody cutting the Billboard Awards in Milwaukee. You know what I'm saying? That's not happening.
That's what you said. But I think that's great what you said though. You can make it happen in your hometown too.
Yeah. And I want to really, I don't want to be fangirling so much on these three gentlemen, but I have to, because I think, we're talking, as Mayor Frank said, to the School of Business, and each of these three gentlemen is a prime example of how you can take formal education, which is not for everyone, and I get that. But if you have formal education, how it allows you access to entry in so many areas of this business. And, for Frank G to go from being a dancer to I hope y'all heard him, a manager, a consultant. Yes, he still is let me say the word because I'm going to get it wrong.
Choreographing.
I have little
choreography.
Don't tell anybody. The verb for choreography. That you're still doing that, but the fact that he's also on the business side. Mayor Frank, having taken his education, he was at the forefront of starting Tidal, for God's sake. Like, that's epic. That's historic. And then Derrick, Derrick does 400 things, first of all, just understand. And he has taken formal education and turned it into everything from, running a studio, but he's also doing outreach, community outreach. He's doing economic empowerment programs. He's working with the city, like those types of things. In addition to he's taking what our talents creatively, as well as formal education, as well as his understanding of the business. He's helping other people. He's helping himself. And that's what it takes. Like, there's no one way to entry. There's no one, I love that everybody loves their city. I'm not an LA fan. I lived there though. Shoot, I lived there for a while. But no matter where you are and how you do it, there's more than one way to skin a cat. And look at the variety of areas of the business that are represented just on this panel. There's, I tell my artistic clients, okay, you sing. and you want to be Beyonce, great. I mean, me too. I can't even sing, and I want to be Beyonce. But guess what? There's a whole bunch of people singing jingles. It's a whole bunch of people who are coaching. It's a whole bunch of people making careers out of using their talents. And there's a whole bunch of areas on the business side, more now than ever, that people can find access. But again, this is probably one of the most competitive industries on the earth, probably other than sports. You know, you play basketball, maybe you'll be one of 10 on a team.
Right.
Okay. You tell me the odds. So it's very competitive, and you just can't slack. You just can't.
And you gotta love it.
Mm-hmm.
That's great. Thank you, guys. This has been so insightful to me. I hope it has been for the audience. We do have one last question, and I know our panelists thought this was going to be a tough one to answer. So can you tell us, each of you, what has been your all-time favorite music experience? So it could be a song, a concert, a career moment, whatever it is. What has been your favorite experience? Start out with you, Frank.
Me?
Yep, you. Sorry, two Franks again.
That's so easy for me. It was meeting Michael Jackson. Oh my God. You know, coming from Milwaukee, Wisconsin, North Division High School, 21st Street High School, Fulton High School, junior high, you know, you just don't think you would meet a superstar like that. But I met Michael Jackson in 1986 on the set of Smooth Criminal as a dancer. I don't know why, when he was standing there and getting ready to dance, I just noticed how well manicured his fingers was. That's crazy, right? You know, they were just so manicured so well that I made sure I cleaned my nails before I got on this live tonight. That's something I'll never forget. But also, I remember his mother there. I remember his family there. And when I saw his mother and I met him, and I had a scene where I took a gun out and I shot it right in front of him. His security would check it every take. But it was just like magic to see this brother. But when I saw his mother and saw the mother eating popcorn, okay, I knew right then I could make it, because I saw my mother eat popcorn like that before. And take, you know how you take the salt off your fingers like this? Mm-hmm. And that was just the most incredible moment in my life, to meet this superstar, Michael Jackson, but see that he was Black, just like me. Mm-hmm. And his mother was just like my mama. It changed my life. That was my incredible moment. Oh, I get chills. Wow. I'm done.
All right, I'll go next. You know, as we were talking earlier tonight, you know, we talked about, you know, the artist or the artist and how everyone plays a role. You know, that's the theme of really lifting up the persona of the artist or the band or whatever the group is. And so, you know, when I started Tidal, I think I was a 26 employee. It's now well over 200 in multiple countries. And so we were scraping, but, you know, we were kind of like the, I don't want to use the term stepchild, but we were like the incubator to Rock Nation. And so for those who know Rock Nation is, so Rock Nation is really Jay's and his team's like that's their thing. But we were like the small part of it. So we actually shared, we were on the top 2 floors of a building in Midtown, Rock Nation's headquarters at the time. They've since moved. So these 2 top floors, which basically they had leased out, 1/8 of one of those 2 floors was carved out for us. And literally, I kid you not, like the section that we sat in, it was probably like there was 26 of us, but I don't even think all 26 of us sat in this space. It was like unfinished floor, and you know, it was a work in progress. It was supposed to be Jay's office, and he made it into our into all of you know, a Tidal at the time. So, but we were scrapping, and we were scrapping in there. Everyone did everything. We worked, you know, events. We sent out communications. We did whatever it takes. It was, you know, you talk about versatility. You know, what can I do? You worked weekends. You worked Made in America. You did whatever you were supposed to do. to help grow the business. But because of the relationships that the title had, you saw everybody. So, you saw, people that Frank G works with and, and collaborates with. You saw, I'm not going to name drop, but you saw everybody. So one day I was heading to a meeting on the Rock Nation side, and there's this big, huge conference room. If you do you can see the old conference room. You do some, Googling, if you will. And it was one of those rough days. And I remember I was running a few minutes late for the meeting. And so I'm walking. I come off the elevator bank because I had to go down the floor. And I go through the glass doors. And I just had to kind of walk a little bit to it's a big, high ceiling. I had to walk like 10 yards a little bit to the left to get to the glass doors, or 2 glass doors to get into this conference room, the main conference room. And I hear this loud whistling, like really loud, annoying whistling. And I'm going to be very frank here, pun intended. And I kind of turn to my left and I'm like, who the is whistling? And I look down the hallway a little further and it's Jay. And Jay's like, I'm whistling. So I immediately said, oh no, I'm about to get fired. So I go in the glass door, I go in the meeting started. I sat down and I tell some of my coworkers that Jay's outside. Yeah, just 15 seconds later, boom, the door comes open. What's up? And he comes in and he's walking around. He starts looking at me. I'm like, oh my God. So it was, and he asked some questions, and he did pop in meetings, and he would ask cold call questions on his business. He was very engaged, and very brilliant man, by the way, and very tall. And Frank knows that. He's tall. I'm 6'1", he's 6'3", solid. He's a tall person, solid. Anyway, so that's my music story. I have a lot of them, but you'll have to catch me at a Badger football game, and we'll talk about us.
Me? 2, one really super quick. The first time that I ever was in the car with a client and they heard themselves on the radio the first time.
Wow.
I had a client in Chicago, and her artist name is Freckles. She's really a prolific songwriter. She's written for everybody from Janet to some television series to, I could go on and on. But she had a moment where she was actually an artist, and she was signed to Frank Thomas, the baseball player's record label. And a single of hers ended up on the radio, and I was in the car with her. And that look on her face, and that just moment of it's happening. And then being on the professional side, I have 0 gifts creatively. Can't sing, can't dance, can't do a thing. So this is my only chance to be in entertainment, is to sling paper. But to see the culmination of the work we'd done together and what it came of it and what it meant to her was, that's priceless. The other was probably just this past weekend. Trivia pursuit factoid. I'm originally from Minneapolis. My maiden name is Nelson. I actually went home to Minneapolis this past weekend because it was supposed to be my cousin's wedding, but COVID made her have to push it back. But my cousin had got me a VIP ultimate private tour experience at Paisley Park, Prince's studio. And in addition to being a Minneapolis Nelson and the effect that obviously Prince and his music had on all of our lives in my growing up. But in addition to that, 2 of my clients were working with him really right at the time. One, Hannah Welton, was the drummer of Third Eye Girl, rock band, girl band that he was his muse close to his death. And then her husband, my other client, Joshua Welton, who was there when Prince hired Hannah, and he bought them a house in Minneapolis and put them up, and they were doing that whole thing. Well, Joshua was a producer, a singer, an artist, a writer, and a musician, and they'd be in the studio for the girl band, and he and Prince would talk about God and faith and all things holy, basically, and spiritual. And finally, Prince, I think one day was like, "And what do you do for real?" And he's like, "I write, I produce." Well, Joshua in his very early 20s was one of the only producers, I think the only producer that ever worked with Prince that Prince gave credit to, that he actually did articles about Joshua, spoke on him. He wrote a couple of songs with Prince, some of which were singles and, you know, again, on the radio. And so to go through that tour, that ultimate tour of Paisley Park, and see Hannah's picture, you know, 15 feet high on a wall, know that a track that Joshua was working on was on the screen on one of the, you know, frozen in time computers that's in the display. And quite frankly, being in studios and hearing raw audio of songs that Prince was working on right before his death, or seeing the hat that he left on a piano, or posing goofy picture with a guitar, absolutely epic, absolutely, I don't know, in some ways eerie, but just to see it all and understand what music can do, what it does for people from an emotional standpoint, how it locks people in. I was taking me back to space and time, understanding how success in the industry can change your life and the life of others. And to see that even in your death, the legacy that you can leave from being a part of this business is eternal and can continue the cycle, was just an extremely special and amazing experience.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What you got?
We'll keep it real simple. Oh, just really quick though. Frank G, my mother taught at North for her entire teaching career for over 30 years, starting in 77. Frank McGehee, I am a title customer, and I don't know if you have anything to do with this, but the reason why I'm a title customer is they are the only streaming app that gives proper credit to recording engineers and producers and contributors and writers and all that good stuff. And also to you, Heather, Minneapolis was the first city I moved to out of school, and I worked for Marshall Fields as an assistant buyer, and I bounced at Pizza Luce downtown. Now, just real quick, my real simple top musical moments. I just got to two real quick. It's when you hear a song that you either produced or from a project that you produced on the radio. Got to agree with Heather. That's simple. That's you can't replicate that feeling. And then also, I also deal with young artists, so I'm a teacher. And so during that Youth Arts Initiative and building that program, there was one moment when Stephen, we won't have to say his last name, he's a minor still. He's been banging away at this drum machine and trying to wrap his head around a step sequencer and how it works, and trying to get this beat made, and he just the moment came, and I happened to be watching him at the time, so I got to see this and film this, and I have this film on film still, and this is the moment where he lights and he says, "Oh," you know what I mean? Like, and it sounds super simple, but if you were there, or if you even see it, it still comes through in the film on my iPhone, where he got a discovery moment of, "Oh, I can do this. It's not that I can't do it. I just got to work a little harder." And then that kid ended up producing 3 or 4 songs and rapping on our class demo tape, which will be released to streaming platform soon. So that discovery moment and just hearing a song on the radio.
Wow, some really, really cool experiences. So thank you all. I mean, my number one music experience was probably Brandy posting about this event on her Instagram. So, and talking to all of you guys, but that was pretty cool from our team too. So I just want to thank all 4 of you for joining us tonight. Your perspectives were awesome, and it was so wonderful to hear from fellow alumni on what they're doing. So thank you again for everything.
It's over?
It's over.
Can I make a shameless plug?
Yes, of course.
Okay. So I mentioned that I started a company, Soul Reciprocity Network. We're doing events like this. I know a lot of the people watching want to be in the business. I'm doing a webinar series right now called Focus on Faith. And next week on Wednesday, the panel is all about social justice in the arts. And we have a crazy array of people. With a lot of time, I mix executives and talent and people from various areas, but everyone from a young man I represent named Keedron Bryant, who had a song called I Just Want to Live last year. That was the anthem, deemed the anthem by CNN of the Black Lives Matter movement, and his mother, to a Black art gallery owner, to a VR person who did a 360 film that Facebook picked up for their In Protest series on Facebook Oculus. So we are continuing things like this for people who want to be in the industry and doing some edutainment. And at soulreciprocitynetwork.com, people can register for that. That's my plug.
Perfect.
Well, these guys will be there soon. Because I'm
I don't like streaming. Okay. Like I have a group called June's Diary. They three million copies of these. I think we got about $3,000. But if we would have sold 1 million copies of these at $1 each, that would have been $1 million. Okay. So if you want to support my group, June's Diary, we're independent. Please go support them. They're incredible. They're 5 females that can sing their butt off. Thank you.
The Mandalorian reference is not fair, Frank.
This is the way.
Gosh, well, thank you all again. And thank you to everyone watching at home tonight. We are so glad that you tuned in, and we hope that you enjoyed yourself. We do hope that you join us for the next event in the series, The Business of Chocolate. I can confirm that's going to be on May 19th, 2021. You'll have to stay tuned for more information. We don't have a website up for it quite yet, but watch the Wisconsin School of Business social media or your email for information on that event. I also just wanted to share a few upcoming events from both the Wisconsin School of Business and the Wisconsin Alumni Association that you can see on your screen now. If you want to check out the websites at the bottom there to find out more about those events, we hope to see you again soon. So we hope you had a wonderful evening, and on Wisconsin.